Thank you. Welcome, everybody. The meeting called to order. Could you please take the roll?
Commissioner Batterson?
Here.
Commissioner Henderson?
Here.
Commissioner Carey?
Here.
Commissioner Velasco?
Here.
And Commissioner Lee?
Here.
Okay. Okay, we're all here. How about if we go for the approval of the May 14th minutes?
Move to approve those.
I second.
Any opposed? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Well, I wasn't here. Passed. This says 3 months, 4 months? Excellent. Okay. The minutes of September 10th, has everyone had a chance to go over them? Do we have a...
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Great.
I'll abstain. I was absent.
Okay. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Minutes approved. Okay, where are we? So, public comment presentations. We have some people in the audience, which is always a good thing. And I will just do these in order in which they are presented. The first speaker will be William Malins. And then I'll tell you the order with which they're going to be, just so you know when you're up. The next one will be Michaela Milena. And then James, is it Milos? Oh, I'm sorry, Milana. Different wording. And then Eddie Navarro. So we'll start with William. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm here because I want to speak about the fields that are being covered up with turf, the softball fields. I believe it's wrong. I practice on Miami Center every Saturday for the last 15 years. Me and my girls, we practiced there for the last 15 years, and now it's gone. They say that they need the room. They need the room for more turf fields. I believe that's true, that you guys do need the room for more turf fields, but you can't take already what you've already taken already. We have Prescott Parks are gone. Armstrong, Atkinson, everything from this Parks and Recreation has taken away already 8 fields in Santa Maria and covered them with grass. And now you want 2 more? And you say it's already done deal, you know that it's been done, but it's not, you guys can save these fields still, you can still change your mind on this, and I can't believe that it's even come to this. That, you know, you have kids that still need to play. They need the fields. You say that only Marimani and Roderburg are sufficient for us to have. We have a city of 100,000 plus, and yeah, you say soccer has bigger numbers, but they don't. It's just that we have different rec. We have south side, we have north side, we have west side, we have travel balls. You know, but it doesn't matter if they're not tied in with the city. They're still city. They still live within the cities. They still pay taxes. And for you guys to cover up these fields and it's just like, hey, this is going to be what we're going to do. You know, that's wrong. I've been to city council meetings and I know what's been told, what the word means. And I seen when they came and they asked, we're not asking for soccer fields. We're demanding. And that's how they come forward. We demand. So, you know, that's how I'm going to phrase it. You know, I'm going to demand that you guys keep our fields. Because yes, we are taxpayer citizens. Yes, we do everything for the city. But, you know, for you guys to do this is completely wrong. And I hope in your hearts when you see these children that are losing this, that you guys can at least take it into your heart and think about what you're doing, because it's wrong. And that's basically all I have to say. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Michaela?
Hello, my name is Michaela Milena. I'm a senior at Santa Maria High School, and when I found out that Manami and Zima's fields were being torn down, I was devastated. I knew I had to do something, so I organized a protest, which was held yesterday outside of the Parks and Rec Center from 4 to 6. We have 213 parent signatures, and we had children marching for 2 hours. With signs, and they're all upset that their fields are being taken away. They don't have anywhere to practice. There's 2 fields left in the city. that's not enough. We have so many teams that need places to practice, and a lot of the other fields, like Hagerman, cost a lot of money to rent, and teams can't afford it because their lights cost a lot, and so we need those city fields. I had more. I'm sorry, I didn't prepare anything. I guess that's it. I can't think of it right now. Sorry.
Thank
you.
James Molina.
Hello, my name is James Milana,
Milana.
and been involved in youth sports down for the last 30 years here in Santa Maria. President of Santa Maria Girls Softball in 1999 when Parks and Rec moved us out of Armstrong Park into Hagerman. We took that move, and that was 20 years ago. Since the next day, we lost Atkinson Park, and so on. So many fields we've lost during this period of time because of the need for soccer players and for the demand of some people on the city council, planning commission, that push for soccer. I was at the meeting here at the Vets with this young gentleman here when we asked at the cemetery what we were going to do with the property next to the cemetery. They came in droves and they brought in all their children. We could have did the same thing. You seen the Santa Maria Times today. There was loads of children. There's going to be more people coming up with signs and pickets. But they came into his meeting and they demanded not just a little bit. They wanted the whole place by the cemetery. They want soccer fields, and they demanded it. There was no second things. I think young man was there too. There was a couple of us there. There was only 2 people from baseball. The rest were soccer players, and they came in groups with kids. They're demanding what the things. What I'm saying is that we have Roddenberger, Marimani, and Conn Field available right now. If you've ever been to these fields, Alex will tell you, this young man will tell you, they're not baseball fields, they're practice fields. They threw dirt on them 20 years ago. Once a month, they'll drag them, maybe. They're sand pits. We're happy that they took the dirt out of there and put new dirt. Maybe they'll fix up Marimani and Roddenberger. It's about time that they do some improvements to those 2 fields because they haven't done anything. Miami, it's great right now. Hopefully we could save it. And they put better dirt there, and so we can actually practice there. Seamus Field is a baseball field. We play Southside Little League there. We have tournaments there. They have practice there. They already eliminated that, scraped it. We're hoping to save that field too. We're trying to get it back on the agenda for Planning Commission to relook at what they've decided to do and say, hey, let's do a 50-80. Little League has changed the rules where you can't be 13 years old and play Little League. So if you're 12 years old, going to be 13, you have to move to Babe Ruth, which is 60-90. Now some of these kids are too little. They quit baseball. Wow. Because they can't throw the ball 60-90. So I sent an email to Mr. Posadas that Alex Seamus would be a perfect place to put a 55-80 field. That's so the kids can gradually move up. No reply back. This is a deal. We need baseball. You take away these fields, now are we telling these kids, it's not America's game no more. It's not America's pastime. We're here to fight for America's game and America's pastime. Just baseball, softball, youth football needs a home of their own. Soccer needs a place to be. We believe in everybody, but we shouldn't believe one sport. One sport, look at, we shouldn't be, one sport should take over the place of everybody. And we're here to put on the agenda, reconsider, you're the bosses of these people. You could change it. There's people that are patting themselves on the back right now, city council, planning commission, because they got this done. Because they're putting lights at at Seamus and Manani. And now we have adult soccer practicing there at nighttime. Adult soccer? Who cares about adult soccer? There's people on this board and other boards are patting themselves on their back. It's wrong.
I'm sorry, but thank you.
So reconsider, and you're the bosses, stop it now and take a look at what you got and the changes you can make. That's all you can do.
Thank you. Eddie Navarro. Eddie Navarro. How do we do the timer? Oh, okay.
Thank you for your time. My name is Eddie Navarro. I'm a 68-year native of Santa Maria. Played sports here and coached a few years, and currently involved with the Elks with their youth activities. So I believe in kids. I believe in kids playing sports, because sports develops leadership, respect for the elders, family, everything, and that's our future. And the worst thing that happens is that, you have the rumors start, then you have the grapevine, then you got social media. So you get different stories and different deals coming. So you hear different what's going on, that they're shutting us down, they're taking this away, whatever, But, when I passed through Seamus Field, I noticed they were doing some tractor work. Well, first thing I thought, when it rains, I've coached there, and it always gets flooded with the rain. So I thought, oh, good, they're going to put sand, they're going to, make it so that, the water runs off during the rain. Well, then I understand, they're going to be taking it out, and then they're going to be taking out Manami, but I don't want to believe they're going to be taking it out. Hopefully, I've always thought, there's room enough to be able to make it a multi-purpose, to be able to play softball, play baseball, be able to play soccer, lacrosse, or whatever needs to be played. But we do need to make sure that we have a home plate and the bases and a pitching rubber, for it'll be safe for the kids. So if they're going to put grass in there, then kids will play wherever we play. As a kid, I played in the streets, I played on empty lots, and the thing is that we need it safe as possible. When you're sliding on grass, it's different than sliding on dirt. You could get hurt a lot more easier on grass, getting stuck in the grass. I'm sure if anybody here has slid on grass, they'll know what I mean. And so, and over the years, seeing these fields taken away, Armstrong, Fessler, and then of course after 9/11, all the schools have been, closed up, after a certain time. So basketball, I've coached basketball, and there's no place to practice basketball. So, we need something for everybody. I'm sorry?
Wrap it up, please. Wrap it up, please.
Okay,
That's good.
well, but anyway, I'm just here to say we need, if we're going to do something, keep the kids in mind for baseball, because it's still a sport for a lot of kids in the valley. And Seamus Field, in 1971, they had the Middle League World Series, which we won. In 1981, the girls Orchid Express won the national championship. So there's a lot of history there. And I don't want to see that go away. I don't want the stands, I want them to stay baseball fields so we can all play. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Santa Maria Pickleball Club is going to make a presentation. Welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner Carey, and good afternoon, Commission. My name is Steve Nelson, and I represent the current pickleball players in Santa Maria and also the future pickleball players in Santa Maria. I wanted to bring you up to date a little bit about where we are in pickleball. But before I do that, I just want to thank you for your support for pickleball and including it in the recreation program. It's been very valuable. Pickleball is growing nationwide. There's over 3 million players nationwide. It's growing at a rate of 12% per year. Locally, when we came to you 3 years ago, when you graciously painted 4 courts for us over at Atkinson Park tennis courts, we had 49 players in the city. We now have over 105 players in the city. And it's growing each week. New people come out. We just last year had our first tournament that the city sponsored. We had 64 players that came as far away as Fresno and as far south as Woodlake Village. And this year it increased to 75 players, and from anywhere from Paso Robles down to Santa Barbara. So it's a growing sport. And because of that, we're at the point where we're outgrowing our 4 courts. And I'm coming to you today to see if we can get 6 permanent courts installed. And if there is another location, we would like to have another location, but if not, we could take over the same space that we currently have. And we're asking for the courts to be painted there, permanent nets put in, just like you would in a tennis court, you would want permanent. Right now, we have temporary nets that we have to set up and tear down each time we play. We store them in the community center, and we're at the whim of the community center hours as to when we can play. If we have permanent courts, it would be open to the public 24/7, and of course we have good lighting also that would facilitate that also. So that's where we're at, and if there's any questions?
Do we have questions? Comments?
Yes.
Sorry, can we ask questions?
It's on the agenda.
Yeah, you can on presentations, yes.
One other thing is that the reason I think it's really going to grow, we've done demonstrations at Santa Maria High School for the last 2 years. In fact, this Thursday we're going to do a demonstration over there in 4 of their PE classes. And in December 5th, the Bonita School District has asked us to do a demonstration for all of their 30 PE teachers in all of their schools. Wow. And they're planning on making pickleball part of their curriculum at each and every school. So we're going to go over the rules with them, show them out the layout, how the game is played, and then support them in that effort also.
Excellent. Question?
Thank you. Thank you for the information. Always helpful. I noticed that there's a invoice in here.
Yes.
Is that for a previous conversion? Is that for your proposed conversion?
That would be for our proposal. This was the same company that painted the courts for us about 2.5 years ago. And I just went to them to see what their bid would be on the conversion. And that would be for 6 permanent courts over there at Atkinson Park.
Okay, in addition to the 4.
Well,
For a
no,
total of
that
10.
would be, there's 4 there now, and those 4 would be changed, and it'd be also the elimination of the 2 tennis courts.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, commissioners? Okay. Thank you so much. Oh, do you have something?
Just a little bit of information.
Go ahead.
So, for those commissioners that have been here for a while, we had pickleball kind of start out as Steve has mentioned, with a small group of people. They got a little more interested in it. It's growing. It certainly, is a sport for individuals who are still very active and maybe a little older, but the stepping out into the schools and trying to get more going on is very similar to what some of our other sports have done to get out there and get students involved. The lawn bowler groups did that. Our tennis program right now is trying to get out there and do more. So this is another one of those situations where we have a finite area, which are tennis courts in the city. And in reality, we have the 4 courts at Atkinson, and then the 6 courts at Menominee. And those are really kind of all we have on the official tennis courts. We do have 2, I'll call them school-level courts over at North Prescott Ranch that are asphalt courts, tennis courts, so that we share with Tommy Kuntz Junior High School. So there's, again, we're limited in the number of courts that we have. So one of the thoughts is for us to look at other locations in the city where maybe the city has some empty space where we could look at maybe looking at a pickleball court facility that would actually house them independent of the tennis courts. As was mentioned with the softball groups, there's this ebb and flow of interest in facilities. Fortunately, our inventory of facilities is pretty finite. And so the more we can do things like adding multiple sports to areas that maybe weren't intended for that, as tennis courts weren't really intended to be pickleball courts, it just so happens that they fit, or basketball courts, are another option to look at. So staff wants to be able to start looking more closely at this and seeing what's out there in our inventory of facilities, and if there's something out there where we can find a space. One of the things that I spoke with Steve about was was for $25,000. I mean, that's a significant investment of money. If we could find a space, maybe that money would be better spent directed to a facility where we could actually, dedicate it to pickleball use. So we're going to look around, we're going to see what we have in our space inventory out there to kind of move forward. I think that if you look at their list of participants, they're registered members. That's a good group of people given the fact that they've only been around a short period of time. And it seems that there's a good interest in that, age group, because I'm in the age group too. But there's interest there to do more and to participate more. Part of our active aging program is to get people out and do more physical activity. Pickleball is certainly one of those. It's a sport that makes you use a number of different muscles in your, while you're playing the game, and there's strategy to it. It's just like any other racket-related sport. So we would like to work with the pickleball group and try to see what's out there in our inventory, and if there's some place we can come up with some layouts. We're certainly not opposed to this. It's just, again, converting a dedicated space that we've had for a long time, to another sport. And there's always going to be feedback that's not in support of that. So I think that's something we need to consider, and we'll take a look and see what we can find out there. So what I would, if the commission is okay with that, if you give me the California nod, then I'll go ahead and we'll open up discussions with them and start looking around and seeing what we have available.
I have another question, if it's okay. At the last community meeting, I spoke with Mr. Arredondo about the needs for pickleball facilities in the community, and he mentioned that currently a lot of the members travel out of town and pay at certain facilities for rather nice facilities, and that it could possibly, I think I understood that it could possibly be revenue generating. I don't know if that's something that might help offset the costs, or if there is such an interest, if that's something to consider.
Well, I think that would be definitely something we would consider. Many of the special interest groups, and I'll use lawn bowling as the example, they have, as a group for the last 30 years, have organized themselves, raised their own money to build their clubhouse, reinstall their turf that they use to play on. We've participated as a partner in some of those things, either financially or with labor to help them. But pretty much they run their own program. And I see something like a pickleball group being something similar to that, where maybe we help them get their initial facilities going, and then they take those over and, run their tournaments and, pay a fee for maintenance over the course of the year or something like that. So those are things that we would open discussions on to try to get them, on their feet, and then what makes sense over time.
Right.
A question.
Go ahead.
Or two. Clarifying question. So 6 pickleball courts fit on 2 tennis courts?
4.
According to the drawing that's on there, yes.
Okay. And then, obviously, we would have to bid this out.
It's under the limits. If the number is correct there, our trigger, I believe, is $50,000.
Okay.
And this is a company that we use on a regular basis to do our court relining, so it'd probably be an informal thing where we'd send out a couple of requests for pricing, but it's not a formal bid issue.
I'd be comfortable with researching this and seeing what our options are. I think like we ask with any other group, fundraising and bringing in some of that cost.
Sure.
Obviously, because we're already looking at some other budget constraints. So I think I agree with Commissioner Henderson. There's an interest that we could generate some funds,
Sure.
and really looking at that sustainability moving forward, so.
Yes, and the club has, for the most part, taken care of all their own equipment, their nets, and, they set up and take down after themselves right now, and the temporary setup that they have, and we certainly would expect that kind of thing to continue. But we can drill down to those finite points once we move forward.
Okay.
Commissioner Lee?
I have Hagerman here. Is
Yeah.
that something that's in progress, or is
No.
that?
Those are just concepts.
Oh, okay.
Commissioner Lee?
I have excuse me, I have an observation I want to comment on. My name is Paul Lee, came to this country at the age of 5, taught myself to speak English by saying, "Can I play?" And I realized that play is extremely powerful, and I call it the power of play. Through play, we learn about competitive achievement, teamwork, leadership, communication, integrity, sportsmanship, and the list goes on and on and on. So I think it's a very positive event happening right now, the fact that the softball people are coming in, the pickleball people are coming in. However, we have finite resources. And from my personal experience, I served in the San Francisco Recreation Department, Fresno Recreation Department. I was Director of Recreation at UCSB for 35 years. And what I find is that people become very territorial about their particular sports. And I find that sometimes the adults are more interested in finagling the children's rules to very specific rules to that sport, as opposed to, how can we make this work? We have these multi-purpose facilities. Why can't we make it work? I'll give you some examples. At UCSB, we had 3 pitch to your own team for softball. Everyone hit the ball. There's a heck of a lot more action. People learned how to field, play defense, throw, pitch. There's a lot more action. For basketball, we played self-officiated basketball. We came up with rules where we could self-officiate. We played inner tube water polo. We had ultimate frisbee. We had rugby, lacrosse, field hockey. We had every sport imaginable. And we only had finite facilities until we encouraged the participant to take ownership. And then once they had so much fun playing, by making a paradigm shift and saying, you know what, we don't have to have fast pitch softball. We can play 3-pitch to your own team. We can play inner tube water polo. We can adopt the rules. We're having fun. We're learning about all these life skills. We're empowering people. Then we empowered them to pass fee referendums to build Recreation Center 1, Recreation Center 2, the Aqua Center, rock climbing walls. So what I'm begging Santa Maria to do is to come together and say, this is the positive event that we're experiencing through the power of play. We have people participating in action, in play. Let's work together. Let's communicate. And let's figure out how can we take the finite resources that we have, make them multi-purpose. For grass, make them artificial turf, lighting, LED lighting, so that round the clock we can put as many people out there as possible. Change the rules if necessary, and make sure that as many people are on that field as possible. As many people are in the pools as possible. I hope you understand what I'm enticing.
Thank you.
So for pickleball, I just want to say, ask a question. Is it possible, once you adapt the pickleball facility for other, as an example, people played street hockey on the tennis courts too. Will it be possible for other users to continue to use that court?
They would, just like they do now.
Okay.
Those courts, I don't know if you've had a chance to go with those courts in the evening, but
Yeah.
those courts, it's really positive. see what goes on over
Steve,
there.
could I get you up to the mic, please? Sorry, just for the record.
At Atkinson Park, we tried some evening play over there, and I would say that that's when that park is used the most, under those lights. But you have one court that's set up, and you have a group of about 8 to 15 kids that are playing basketball. Over on the other side, there's some kids that have jury-rigged a volleyball net, and they play volleyball over here. And then on this court over here, there's either soccer players kicking the ball around, or there's somebody playing tennis. And then we're playing pickleball on the other 2 courts. So, yeah, these courts they'll still be open and used to whatever they do. But I'll tell you, pickleball in the cities where they put in permanent courts, it is used 7 days a week.
I've seen
Yeah.
the phenomenon.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they would still be open for that.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Lee. Anything else? We good?
Thank you.
The committee,
Yes, that would be my suggestion, is that we refer to Capital Projects Committee, and then we have that discussion. As soon as we get somebody in the Parks chair, yes. Coming up soon, I hope.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have a presentation on Miller Street trees by Mr. Scott Christian.
Hi, Commissioners.
Hello.
So I'm asking you to shift gears now from thinking about sports to thinking about plants, and specifically my favorite, trees. So, you've all received the Commission agenda report about this, so I'm just giving you a visual overview, and then I'm open to questions if there's any. All right. This sounds very grandiose, but every year we try to do renovations, and we're just really focusing on trees where we can. This year, two problems. One, we have a grant where we have a CAL FIRE grant, so we're looking for places to plant trees. And then sort of as the backbone of any renovation or landscape, we want to start with the biggest things in them first, which are the trees. So as in doing that, we have come up with an issue that we wanted to talk to you about. And this is not something you usually hear me talking about, but that is the actual removal of trees. Okay, so I'm going to explain really quickly the thought process. And the visual sort of tells it to you. Most of the pictures I'm showing you are along South Miller. Many of them are in the median, in the southern part of that street. So you see here, this is a group of liquid ambers, and we have 6 of them there. Now, it's laid out in the agenda report. Often trees are planted, because they're planted at a small and mature size, they're planted to give some kind of immediate effect, both the aesthetics and environmental effects, to get as much foliage as you can. But this is what happens with time sometimes. The good news here is we didn't have a lot of attrition of the trees over time, but we have definite crowding that's happening. When you crowd trees like this together, then they're fighting for the same nutrients. So it's sort of a survival of the fittest, and you'll see this as we go along on this. They're competing for the same nutrients in the ground, the water and the nutrients that they bring up. In this case, we got paired trees. These are 2 different pictures. These are not the same set of trees. Here we've got trees where their structures are hitting to each other, which is never good for a tree. It causes rubbing of branches and wounds. It also makes for the individual trees to become rather lopsided. And then this is my winners and losers. So you can sort of see which trees are happy here and which trees aren't, which makes the management sort of self-evident too. So like that picture on the right, if we were to do a thinning, we would take the right-hand tree out because the other tree has dominated it and below is dominated. Okay, now we'll come all back to that, but I want to just mention a few other objects here, which is, we put in trees, and we've done this over time, and we're getting more sophisticated every year on it, but sometimes trees have been picked in the past when there isn't as much information and the thought process about the bigger picture. So one of them is, what's going to happen to this little tree in this little hole in the sidewalk when it becomes a big tree? And you walk around along sidewalks, you see that. That is sort of the classic urban problem, but we also sometimes find out a species doesn't work well. So this is actually along the Miller Corridor too. All the trees in the pictures are cedars. You can see some of them are happy and some of them are not. It's sort of hard to tell from the picture, but the trees that do not look good are not considered dying. They're just ugly. This species of trees suffers from wind sculpting the city. I know I use really fancy words. So you can see on the left-hand picture there's no branches on the left side of the tree. That was not from pruning. That's the wind has done that, and it's slowly wearing these trees down. Needless to say, we've learned from this lesson, and this isn't a tree that's going to be used a lot. We have a problem with wind in the city, and because it runs. So this is just an example of something. These are trees we're suggesting to have removed. I kept trying to recrop this picture because it hadn't been working right, and then I realized it was actually telling you the story I want to tell you here. This is a fan palm. Everyone likes to think they're an iconic California plant. This is what happens to them with time. We have sticks after a while with a little bobblehead at the top. And as I mentioned here, they're very high maintenance because the fronds fall off if you don't cut them when they're dead. So they're much higher maintenance than our typical urban tree, and they actually have a lot lower environmental benefit if you measure all in any of the factors. What we want in an urban environment for a tree is we want big umbrellas. We want a lot of mass, but we want it in the shape of an umbrella ideally. This is not much we want. So this is a tree we've been phasing out, and this would sort of be the example of it. This particular one's starting to get so high that we have to bring in a specialty lift to prune it, which means our costs go up even higher. The main reason I say the costs are high is the frequency is high. Okay, so obviously we're looking for making choices where we learn from our past. We're looking, like I said, for large umbrella trees. If they have the root space, so we're not going to be damaging sidewalks. We want something that has a significant environmental effect and does well in the city. One of the things I mentioned here in the third bullet point is we're always concerned about a pest or a disease moving through a population. The classic one in America would be Dutch elm disease. It was terrible. A century ago when it came through, they were literally just cutting the trees down and dropping them in the streets and burning to try to stop this. So we want diversity. So when diversity goes, it requires, some people ask why we don't use California natives exclusively. That wouldn't be diverse. So we're always looking for new trees and also looking for what they are. We don't want to get too close to cousins. So we want to look for some variety. Okay, couple of slides that aren't that significant, but what this is literally just a couple snapshots out of the Miller tree planting plan that we are currently going to be doing. And that sort of comes to the conclusion, which is our municipal code restricts the removal of live trees. Everything I've shown you there were considered a live tree, even though we have reasons that we think we should modify them, and they will actually they'll either improve the adjacent standing trees or open a spot for a better choice. And that's why I brought this plan to wave at you. We never propose even internally to remove trees without following the municipal code, which is a 2-to-1 replacement. In this case, the Miller Street corridor is in the southeast, and we're proposing to remove 40 trees there, and the southeast has a plan right now to put 90 trees back in. That doesn't mean they're going in the same spots, but they're going in the same area of the city to give them the benefit back, because the intent, of course, is not to be very democratic. That's it for my formal presentation, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Who wants to start?
Well, you answered mine about putting in twice as many
Yeah.
as to just in different spots.
Yes, yeah, different spots in the same general. A lot of people actually go back on Miller because we've lost trees in other areas.
Yeah.
We've got sort of this, slinky effect. We've got bare and crowded areas on that street, and so we're trying to redistribute it.
Commissioner Henderson?
Sure. First, thanks for the information. I always learn when you're here. 2 questions. First, is the cost of the removal and replacement covered by that grant, or is some of that also out of the budget?
Good question. The grant is only for the planting of the trees. The removals are being covered by our appropriation of gas tax, which is used every year for the maintenance of some trees. In a few cases, like the trees in the basins and stuff, city staff will take those out.
Okay. And then my second part is, I know that the department does a really good job of public notice, but I imagine a public outcry if there's not sufficient media attention on what's happening and why it's happening. I just want to make sure that we cover that base, because people tend to be passionate about trees.
Yeah, and that's part of my intent to start with the education here.
Okay.
That is, because this is typically we do 1 or 2 trees.
Right.
This is a little more, but we're trying to make a big impact on the street.
It looks great to me. I like it. Thank you.
So one of my questions was around cost, and also the education part. When do we anticipate taking down the trees, if it's approved?
I would, right now it's on the docket for within about a month.
It's November.
I mean, getting a big banner and educating on why we're doing it doesn't sound like a bad idea.
Banners would be great. No, really.
We'll pass that on to our marketing person and let him work on that. It's true. No, and I think one of the things that we try and do is that sometimes the city, in moving forward through things, we've got to play catch up, and one of the catch up things that we have to do is, by the time we get the money to do things, the things we talked about last year or the year before are the things we're finally getting to, and people forget what happened back then and why the decisions were made. And I think trees are one of those where people understand that, like any other plant, a tree needs to be cared for and taken care of. And when it gets to a point that it becomes unruly, in your own garden, you're going to take that out. Unfortunately, our garden is huge, and we have, several thousand trees that we need to deal with. So I think what we'll go ahead and ask Dennis and his staff to do is to come up with a news release and get some information out there. Send it out to the media, and maybe they'll come in and do some things. We find that using social media is an easier way to get the word out, as like all the other groups, that do events and things. So maybe there's a way to do that via our social media program and get things out there and say that. Give you an example, when we put the banners up for the public meetings for the parks, we didn't get a lot of response from that. We got okay response, but a lot of that ended up being word of mouth. So I don't know, in the areas that we're talking about, it would be difficult to put a banner up in the medians, on Miller. And maybe not so much in the basins that we're looking at, but I think we'll try that approach if that's all right. Do some news releases, do some social media, try to get the television station out. And Scott can talk about trees and let the community know what the plan is. I do think that it's important to talk about replacements. Again, just like at your own garden, at the end of the season, it's time to plant new trees. As you can see, these trees are not models of beauty. A lot of them are just stressed out, and it's time for them to move.
I think as commissioners, we can just remember that 40-90 number, and 40 are coming down, but 90 are going up, and that could be a big education.
Yes.
What size will the replacements be? Will they be little 5-gallon or?
Because we're using grant money, trees on Miller will be 15-gallon, and I say that because we often plant 24-inch box, which in my terminology is sort of the next size up. Grants usually require, or certainly we found on using anything larger than a 15-gallon. We would be fine with 15 gallons, except 15-gallon trees don't have as good a success rate, but we're not having to pay for it, so we'll go with it. A few of these trees, maybe about 10 of them, are for areas off of Miller and not in the grant, and those would be 24-inch box, which is our standard.
I have one more. What about, just kind of specific, the Italian stone pines right off Betaravia and Miller? Do you know which ones I mean? They're beautiful. Stone pines aren't going, are they?
No.
Okay, because they're healthy.
Love this, I know stone pines are coming out. It's not on our list for putting in. Great tree, great umbrella tree. If all our cars were no taller than about 6 feet. They're not tall enough to be put along major thoroughfares, so we don't do that anymore.
Well, just as long as they're not going anywhere.
No.
I'll be ugly with it.
Oh, they're ugly. All right, okay, I think I got on mine. Not thriving is a good, trees are, well, my thing too. So I would say not thriving rather than ugly, just because they have feelings. Anyway, sorry. Okay, our next, thank you so much.
Commissioners, before we move on, one of the things that Scott mentioned was gas tax. And so we get an allocation of the gas tax specifically for tree maintenance. And those are trees that are located within the rights of way, either in the medians or in the roadside ways. A lot of the problems that we have in these areas is eruptions caused by roots infiltrating into the sidewalks or into the curb and gutter. So we've been working with Public Works and with the City Manager's Office to revise the municipal code to talk about trees and specifically looking at trees from a different perspective. Something that I would like to put on your next agenda is to bring those changes to you to look at. Right now, the way that tree issues are handled is it's this commission's purview to take reviewing trees and reviewing appeals from the public about trees. And what we've tried to do is look at those trees that are dead, diseased, or dying. The other D word that we're putting in there is discretion. An example of discretion are these. Typically these trees don't fall into the dead, diseased, or dying category, but they do fall into the discretion. That they're not, they weren't planted with 20 years later in mind. They were planted with immediate gratification for the landscape designer. And I think that's something that we need to take into account. We also need to consider that Public Works, who's our partner in sidewalk and curb maintenance. Their money is finite, and they don't necessarily share our desire to keep trees, that they have to go back and maintain the curb and sidewalk maybe every 8 to 10 years. And there are some species that actually is 5 years, where they go in, they make a repair, and then 5 years later we have an unerupted sidewalk again. So Scott and Roy Tinente and myself have met with them to try to come up with some ideas on some alternatives. Starting at the very beginning at the planning process, one of the comments that we heard at the last community meeting was people want parkways back into their neighborhood designs. We're all for that, but that means a parkway that can really have a tree in it, which is at minimum a 4-foot wide parkway. So there's some things that are going to come up that I think the commission, working with the planning commission, we really need to come up with some down the road future thinking of what Santa Maria streetscapes need to look like. So in any case, we'll be bringing you back that at the next meeting, and we'll talk a little bit about it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, what do we got?
Do we have to approve anything?
No, it's mostly informational
Yeah.
at this point. We'll let you know how things go.
Okay, no new business, but we do have some old business. Really old business. It's like 3 years old. Our commission mission statement that we revised 3 years ago, I believe. Does everybody
Yes.
have that?
So Sheila dug up the last minutes of the meeting where there was discussion on the mission statement, and she included that in the packet for your review and comment. I think that one of the things that we're trying to do is wrap this up so the commissioners can say, here's our mission statement, this is where we want to go. From that, Commissioner Lee, has suggested about doing a retreat, and we're looking at trying to do that at our December meeting, and taking the mission statement, and then the leisure needs assessment, department goals that we already have in the department, and seeing how we meld those all together to come up with the commission's plan over the next 3 to 5 years. So that's kind of our outline, but mission statement is up to you guys to agree to. So staff will step away and take notes.
Okay, do we have comments or ideas? Have you
Well,
guys been?
I really like it because I just like it. Well, I just remember from the last time, it was a merge of some of our suggestions. And just the thoughtfulness in the words. So I'm in favor of it.
I would personally like to wait until the retreat in order for us to really review the mission statement and see if there needs to be any changes. I, for one, was not on the conversation.
Right.
I'm agreeable to that. I do think that we came to a consensus at our last commission meeting, that it kind of brought together all of our ideas. We had different suggestions throughout the year, but I'm agreeable to a December. Can I ask a question? So are we thinking about like a separate day from our regularly scheduled commission meeting, or a longer commission meeting, or?
A longer commission meeting.
Okay.
So, typically in December, we'll do our dinner meeting. And the thought is that we either have our dinner meeting and then adjourn into a session, and we just work into the evening and do that. We probably would start at 4 o'clock with an early dinner and then move right into discussion. Probably do it at a facility, at one of our own facilities, so that we can have the space and not have any, interruptions. That's kind of the temporary plan. If that meets with all of your approval, that's kind of what we'll do. The other question was if we wanted to bring a facilitator in to handle the meeting as far as goal setting goes in that discussion, or whether it's something that you all want to handle on your own.
I don't mind an earlier meeting so that we're not there late. But in case we have a lot to discuss, and then if the budget would allow, I think a facilitator would be a good thing.
Okay. Everybody give me a nod on that? Is that?
I agree.
An earlier meeting's fine, as long as I'm given enough notice, I can make almost anything work.
Okay.
Like a lunch. I'm just kidding.
You know, timeframes, you know, we're working, so it doesn't matter to us when it goes. I think it's really more along your personal schedules. You know, we could go as early as a noon meeting and work through the rest of the day. I mean, if you guys can arrange that, that would be great. And then have dinner at the end, snacks, lunch at the beginning, and then have our facilitator come in and do that for us. There'll be some pre-stuff that I'm sure a facilitator will want to get from you all. So we'll do that. We'll provide them with a leisure assessment, so they have some parameters as to where we go, and just kind of have that discussion.
That sounds good.
So December 10th?
Yes, that's the day.
That was the day we would pick, yes. We'd stick on the same day just for agenda purposes.
For brain power, I definitely think that an earlier meeting is better.
Yes.
Okay,
Peter out.
thank you.
So I could do it.
So we'll look at an early meeting on the 10th, and we'll solicit a facilitator for that.
But not like 8 AM, right? Not
No,
that
I would
early.
think noon time at the earliest, and everybody can, that's working, can at least get in a half a day.
Okay.
That works, thank you.
Thank you.
I just looked on my calendar, and on December 9th, I'm going to be up in Stanford.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's possible to do it the week before or after.
Or, so it's the 10th. Would you be
Correct.
back?
No. If it's not, it's okay.
Yeah, but it took you 3 months to get you.
You know, it's certainly up to you if you want to go the week before. I don't think there's anything that would prevent us from doing that, Sheila. Our calendars,
We just have to post it.
we just have to post it, yes, having an earlier meeting and going the Tuesday. Oh, I'm sorry, the Tuesday before would be council meeting, so we'd probably have to go either the Monday or the Wednesday. Wednesday's planning commission, but we really don't do a lot with planning commission anyway.
Is
So-
the 17th okay? Or is
The week after?
No, that's city
That's
council.
too.
okay?
Oh,
Yeah, so, yeah, you're sandwiched right in between.
Either Monday, December 2nd, or Tuesday, or Wednesday, December 4th.
4th. Okay. Maybe
Sheila,
we
can you
do
send out a doodle?
Yeah.
And then we can all pick, and then the one that has the most, that way we're not.
Wins, okay.
Thank you.
That's my
Staff will
suggestion.
break all ties.
Okay, so there's a
Tiebreaker.
consensus to hold off on our,
yeah.
wonderful,
That's
okay.
fine.
Yeah, or again, if we wanted to go the week after, that's okay, but it would have to be that Monday or Wednesday the week after.
Yeah.
So we'll send out a doodle and put those dates on there as options. Commissioner Lee, that week is out for you, the whole week of the 9th?
My appointment is on Monday, and I suspect I'm going to be going up a little early and probably staying at
yeah.
least 2 days after.
So we should just block out the week and we'll go to the next week before or week after. Great. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, oh, sorry. Leisure needs assessment, so it looks like we're going to put that on the table as well? Or,
So today, we'd like to get your comments back on leisure needs assessment. We'd like to finalize it today so that we can get it advanced to the council, probably that first meeting in December. Just because we're gonna, you know, we'd like to get the plan going as soon as possible. And it's basically a guide for us as far as mission statement and your retreat meeting goes, so,
okay,
yeah.
okay.
So Dennis, you wanna?
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you so much for sending me your comments, those of you who were able. They are all noted. None of the comments that were suggested actually changed the plan in any way, shape, or form, but they are very much appreciated, and if you feel like you didn't get an answer back regarding your comments, please let me know. But I do think most of them can be brought to the retreat as well and somehow worked into that plan. So if it's okay, I know that there's a community meeting tonight, so I'll keep this short. But the comments that I heard were more conservation practices, looking at pesticides, more public art, thank you, long-range planning, community center on the south side, the walking and biking ability in the city, and that was came up a couple of times. Looking at Town Center West, and again, connecting pathways between parks, and then a question regarding the overall survey was about language and what people speak at home and what they would like to get, how they would like to get their information from not only our department, but I assume from all city departments. So those were the comments that I received back. If you were not able to comment because you were out of town because of fires or other instances, please feel free to send those to me before that December retreat, and I'll be sure to include those.
Thank you.
And I'll add that to that. The plan is, this is the 99.9% final draft unless there's any other comments or recommendations at this point. Otherwise, we will move forward with putting it on the council agenda for the December meeting.
Should we nod?
No, we're actually going to need a motion.
Okay.
Before you move on, let me make some quick comments. So, I think that the important tools in here are the graphs and charts. I mean, they give us a good way to look at the data. And we get tasked with looking at data and trying to keep the emotions at bay. And I think sometimes that's a hard task to have. Certainly when you have, the public come and talk to you about a particular issue. The data drives decisions, and the city, again, because of the finite resources that we have, those decisions typically equal dollars. And so we're not unsympathetic to the groups that are out there that maybe didn't make the chart as, important things to the community at large, but they're still important to those groups. And we certainly want to work with those groups to try to help them, address that particular need. One of the things that I don't think we did a very good job on and was to comment with the sports people and remind them of the decisions that were made a couple of years ago on making more sports fields available, making more of our sports fields multi-sports fields. So, but it also opened up an opportunity. We had some really good comments. I had some calls from a couple of people who had some really good ideas about better utilization of our existing facilities. I think Commissioner Lee kind of hit the nail on the head where you say, you got to share, so let's figure out what the best way to share is. And a couple of thoughts that came up that we're going to pursue is to bring some of the leaders of the ball field, the baseball and softball groups into a meeting and talk a little bit about, they only bring up two fields, Rodenberger and Marimani, in their presentation. And certainly we want to make those fields better playable, and they never really have been because they never have been competition level. But we also want to look at Hagerman and see what's happening at Hagerman. Why is the use at Hagerman for softball, especially for the youth programs, pretty minimal. They have their league season and then that's about it. One of the comments that was brought up to me was that there was one of the obstacles was that the fee was too high. I think one of the speakers mentioned that earlier too. And the fee is $13. So you tack lights onto that is another, I think, at $12 or something like that. So it could be up to the $25 range.
Wow.
But certainly we and you as the commission and we as staff, there are ways to provide those services at the city's expense. We turn on lights at a couple of our fields and have public night where people can go out and use those. So we're going to look at new ways to look at reservations, new time slots for reservations. Many of the groups don't want to look at changing their traditional schedule, but we have many opportunities to take games and offer them at different times on different fields and work smarter on the scheduling side of it and be able to utilize those fields more often. If you go out there to Hagerman on a Tuesday evening, typically there are 2 fields with adult programs on them and 2 fields empty. That doesn't have to be that way. If a group needed it for practice or they wanted to make a reservation, we know all that. All our systems are computerized now. We can see what's available. The way we work it with youth basketball is they get a specific number of hours in gymnasiums around the city, and then they allocate it to their teams for practice times. That's another approach we could use with field sports, where they come in there, not all of you, some of you weren't on the commission when Ryan Heath brought in his whole field master plan and laid it out. And that's the plan we've been following. So that kind of melds into the leisure assessment because it kind of will tell us where the demands place the priorities for things. And so, again, it's going to be a data-driven decision. And we'll try and throw in some emotion along the way so that we're responsive to our residents. But again, everything is limited, so we have to be very careful about that. So anyway, back to the charts. I think they lay out everything really well. They're easy to do. Typically, this would go to council as a consent item. I don't know if the commissioners want to take an opportunity to actually agendize it and put some of these charts up and talk a little bit about things in open session. Gives you guys an opportunity to put your work out there, So think about it. Let me know what you would like to do at our November meeting.
Okay.
And then we can agendize it at the first meeting in December or the second meeting in December, if that's something you want to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'll make a motion to send this to council. Yeah.
I'll second.
Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
No discussion, I'm sorry.
I thought we were going to wait until,
This is this.
This is to send this
Just-
to council, and then what we do with it is the discussion in December.
okay. I'm in favor of that.
Okay. And so am I.
So do we have
We have a consensus.
5 ayes
All
on
5 of
that?
us. Yes, we do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dennis, for all your work.
No kidding. And these are great looking too, aside from that. Okay, informational reports. Let's start with a budget update.
Hi, Commissioners, again. The budget that you have in your packet was not month-end. So since then, we are still in the black by about 1%, where this states 2.4%. So the most recent number is about 1%.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Noteworthy activities in September report.
Any questions? Busy month again, even though it's the end of summer, I think there's a lot of things going on.
So much. I mean, new things are added all the time to the music class.
Oh.
The public information on that's been great. Just the mayor's task force, there's so much going on. So I commend the department for continuing to offer so much for a wide range of our.
So yeah, out of the box things too. It's so great to see.
And a lot of those things have been, ideas that the youth have come up with, things they want to try and do. The mayor's councils at each of the high schools have come up with some ideas.
Great.
Staff certainly has driven some of those. But a lot of it, I think, is the staff's ability to work, to turn quickly. And because the mood, the particular interest change so fast with the age group that they're dealing with. that sometimes you just have to react. And Dennis, to his, should be commended too on leading the rec division, and, you know, while we haven't had a rec division manager, and keeping them, you know, in queue behind the goals of the task force, and making those a priority for us, and working with that group. So kudos to Dennis for that.
Yes. We got, director's report.
Well, I already did number 1.
Yep.
So we're working on a date. So the other thing that I mentioned to you all was an email that we got from a consulting firm hired by Santa Barbara County to work on a number of issues, and I'm really not 100% sure of what they all were, but one of them was to create a countywide master plan for open space. Dennis attended that meeting. I believe Commissioner Carey attended that meeting. And the upshot of it was this letter that was sent out from the consulting firm to ask us to support an application for a grant that they're doing for a transportation grant. The focus of this particular grant is to work on a countywide trails program. Right now, the county has no trails in the North County. The only trail that is part of a development that was required through county planning was the Orchid Trails around the Orchid Community Park. So that's the only trail that's out here now that's under county jurisdiction. The idea is to try and develop other a master trail system so that everybody can kind of hook up. From the city's perspective, you know, you get to the end of our trails at the city limit, and then they kind of stop there. So the Levee Trail is a great example of, you can go from Blosser to Sway, and that's it. There's no extension beyond that, and you transfer from a Class 1 totally dedicated trail on the levee down to whatever is available on the road as a painted stripe or whatever it is. So our department and this commission hasn't really played a role at all in trails. That is typically part of the traffic element of the city. So we don't have a lot of say. What we do get to do is maintain those trails, you know, once they get installed, especially the Class 1 trails that you see around the city. So I talked to the Public Works Director and I talked to the Community Development Director, and certainly we don't see any problem in writing a letter from the commission or taking the letter that they have formatted for us and send that in support of their effort. It's a long road to hoe. You know, I think that the county has been trying to get trails for years, and there just hasn't been the support out there. So if they're able to find some money and get a trails master plan going, you know, I think we could connect it to our network. One of the conversations that I had with the Land Conservancy last week was how do we connect Los Flores to the Orchid Trail system? Is there a way to do that? They have secured some conservation easements on the west side of 101, basically across the highway from Los Flores, our freeway entrance anyway. And there's some interest on their part to try to see if there's a way to do some connectivity there. That's cool. So I think it's a good opportunity, but I wanted to bring it to you all and again get a nod and say, yes, this is something you can support, and I can draft the letter and have Commissioner Carey sign that on behalf of the commission, and then we can send that in. Commissioner Velasco, as the chair for Play, also got a letter from them, and she's worked on a letter to send back to them.
Good.
Definitely.
Yes. That's exciting if it happens.
Well, you know, there hasn't been the interest in the North County in forever, I'm sorry to say, from the county perspective. All the trails that are in the county are south of the mountains. They go to south of the mountain destinations. You know, we've kind of not had anything. So it would be nice to have a plan anyway.
No. So we're overdue.
It also coincides with what the assessment recommended.
That's true.
Yes.
And I've heard something about the trail from Santa Maria Levee all the way to Guadalupe. Is that still being developed?
So there is a master plan for a levee trail that is done by County Public Works. The issue there is the resistance from the ag community to people using the trail or misusing the trail by trespassing onto their crop areas. Those are mitigatable things, and I've always said that if you put up a fence or you do something, you know. The other issue has been when they apply pesticides to their crops, that they don't want to, you know, have an issue with pedestrian use or of the area. And we have a similar situation at the airport where we have our trail that runs along the 135 between between Santa Maria Way and Foster Road. And that farmer, when he does that, we close the trail for the period of time that's considered, you know, dangerous. So, I mean, there are options like that. I think there are mitigating steps that could be taken, you know, but at this point in time, Commissioner Lee, that's been the biggest resistance to getting it done. And it would be such a great route to get out to the dunes along the levees, so.
Thank you. Okay, official business conducted by a member. Who wants to begin?
I guess I'll start. I didn't have a lot that I did, but I just wanted to mention that the Patches is now open, and I think they've even surpassed last year on the activities that they're having out there. The Action Club is going to be providing some adult drinks on different days.
This Sunday.
This Sunday is the first one?
Yes, is Boots and Flutes.
Yeah. And to raise money for them. And so if you're out there, you might buy, is it the rosé this?
I believe it is, let's see, no, we didn't do the rosé, so this is, these are mimosas, I believe, yes.
Oh, okay, there's mimosa, 1 weekend a margarita,
And a margarita
something,
one,
and
yes.
then the rosé.
The rosé didn't go over, that was this last weekend.
Oh, okay.
They didn't get enough interest. People didn't
Yeah.
like rosé, I guess, so.
But to support them on that. And then the 26th of this month at Presker Park, the Kiwanis Club will be digging the curbing.
Groundbreaking, yes.
Yeah, groundbreaking for around the 80A playground. So if anybody wants to come out, are we starting at 8?
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock to...
In the morning?
Yes.
To whenever.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a work day for Kiwanis. They'll be out there digging up grass
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff. Kind of laying out the design.
And we were going to invite the robotics team to come out there and maybe get a little publicity for the playground.
Nice.
So,
Great.
hope you guys can make it.
Thank you. Commissioner Henderson?
Sure. I went with my kids to the Betaravia Gallery's opening of Channing Peak's work, which isn't really us, except it's art in our community, and it's a really great show, and it's so refreshing to have great art in our community, and it just kind of reinforces this need for this master plan to move along and get going, which it looks like we have information.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, great.
We do have the art master plan scheduled for November 19th city council meeting, and I want to check that's the right, I believe that's November 19th. But before that, in October, the Santa Maria Arts Council will be accepting the proclamation that October is Arts and Humanities Month here in Santa Maria. So if you're able to attend both of those, that would be great.
Can you send that out?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
To all
Great.
of us?
I'm sorry?
To all of us?
Sure.
Could you give me the October date is,
I will send that out to you
Okay.
tomorrow.
okay.
Excellent.
Thank you.
And then October 2nd, I was able to, on my lunch break, go to the Muscle pop-up art. It was great. It was my first time. The level of craftsmanship and art was great. Good turnout, friendly people, bought some gifts. I was happy. I didn't think I could make it on my lunch break, but I did. And then I went to the patch this weekend, and they did a fantastic job last year. This year, somehow, they've outdone themselves. But the best part of being out there, I think, is the kids. They are so helpful, and they are so friendly, and they're taking pictures for everybody, and they really want to walk your pumpkins out to the car. They're amazing, and I mean, you just can't help but buy more because it's a great cause, and I'm so glad their community has it. So, hope everybody goes out. That's it.
We had a play board meeting last week, and we're continuing to also work on refining kind of our goals, our mission, how we can best support the department, thinking of creating a fundraising committee. So if you know of anybody that is interested in that type of work, either chairing or leading us in that direction, really brainstorming around that, or Cindy is, and just kind of moving forward.
Thank you. Commissioner Lee?
What are the hours for the patch?
10 to 6:30, Friday, Saturday, Thursday, Friday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Last entry at 6.
Yes. 10 to 6:30.
Thank you.
Is that it? Okay. Monday, September 20th, I went to the state water meeting. It was really interesting, and there's so much that, I didn't know, and I still don't. It was more perplexing than educating because there's so much to it. So it was interesting. October 5th, we had the coolest thing here in town, the Volks March. It was the aging, what is it, the act of aging?
Oh.
But it was like, I live right on the levee, so it was right down the levee, and so I went and did it, and it was so much fun. And they give you a pin, and this is like the best pin. It's got our city hall, pass it around, it's like the cutest thing ever. It's got our city hall on it, and it says Santa Maria. And it's a really interesting group. They're walkers, and they go, I think he said there were 33 people that participated, and one of the groups was from, or a couple was from San Diego, and one came from, where was the other place? Somewhere else far, but people come and they join this group and they go all around to the walks, and then they see the communities, and so it's kind of cool. So I hope that we can keep these going, because it was really, really interesting. It was kind of hot, but but it was really, really great. And then the patch, we went to the patch. They are dog friendly. You can, if you don't have small children, puppies are completely welcome. I'm just saying, and they love it, and they get a lot of attention. Let's see. Yeah, if you haven't gone, don't miss it. And the pictures, there's so many cute places to take the pictures. I could pull my phone out and you could see our puppy picture, but that's okay. Community interest items. I was just going to say this because I have a couple things, but I walk in the levee almost every day, unless it's a yoga day. And in the last month, I have seen, and we've lived right there over 25 years. We built our house right there. So I've walked on the levee for years. And before last month, I had only seen one rattlesnake. And this year, we've seen 5 babies, 4 more babies. Yeah. So, yeah. It's a big year for rattlers. I don't know. But just, I tell everybody, because they've got to be cognizant of it, because you don't expect it. You see garter snakes. Anyway, that's just something I wanted to get out there. The other thing, let's see,
It's a marketing thing.
Can somebody dress up in a snake?
Once you see, but then you're paranoid about every stick you see. It really slows your walk down. And I'd stop and take photos, and then one of them, it was curled up, and I didn't realize, they literally blend in with the dirt, the sand up there. And I'm standing there, and I've got the puppy, and I'm thinking I'm taking a photo, and I realized that it's curled. So even though it was a baby, it was little, but I did read, this was kind of interesting, that I Googled snake, rattler snake, because I thought the first one was, and the babies, you don't really see the rattlers, but they're born, there's like a 2-week period that they're born. Scott probably knows this. And which is really strange, but yeah, so that was the time frame. So I'm hoping they're gone now. I'm doing a lot more yoga right now than walking on the levee. But
The baby's venom is the most potent.
yeah, I'm keeping my puppy away from that. The other community interest item is Thursday, October 17th is the first open streets meeting to plan next year's open streets, which is going to be, golly, I think it's like the last day of March again, I believe.
Yeah, the 29th.
Okay, well, close to the
Cesar
last
Chavez Day.
Yeah. So that's coming up, and if anyone wants any information about that, it's at the CET Training and Employment Center at noon. And, yeah, the 29th, 11 to 5 on Main. And that's it, that's all I have. But the patch is really great, so,
Thank you. We'll pass it on to the kids.
yeah. Anything else before we close? Okay, our next regular business meeting is Tuesday, November 12th, and we are adjourned.
So there is a community meeting, if anybody's interested, in the Northwest Quadrant tonight.